Hello everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching the Indian Express analysis which goes live every day at 4 p.m. and today is 27th of May. So we are going to discuss important news and articles from the today's newspaper. We'll start off our today's discussion by understanding about a sailing ship of Indian Navy known as INSV Tarini, because this INSV Tarini, on board of which there are two women officers belonging to Indian Navy, they are conducting a circumvention of the entire globe. So this is expected to reach the coast of Goa now. That is why INSV Tarini is in news. What kind of expedition these women officers were under, what are the important features of this sailing boat, all of this we are going to cover in our today's discussion. Now understand, these kind of naval missions that happen quite frequently, not just in India but in other countries, these are primarily designed to increase interaction between the navies of many countries and also interaction among young people of the country where these sailors travel. This is the intention of the such expeditions, right? So this is primarily important from GS paper 3 and will also deal with the important geographical location where this expedition went, so therefore relevant also from geographical perspective, that is GS1. Okay, in the second article we'll be covering about a Chinese space mission known as Tianwen 2 mission. Tianwen 2 mission, like many other missions by NASA, by Japanese Space Agency, is a mission that will bring back the samples of a particular asteroid back on Earth. So what kind of a mission is this? Where this mission is going to? All of this is relevant from our exams perspective, and the relevant paper here is GS paper 3, that is Science and Technology. Okay. So that is why we are going to cover the Chinese space mission also. In the third article, which is probably the most important article of the day, this deals with a genetic editing tool known as CRISPR-Cas9, and also certain modifications were made to CRISPR-Cas9 using what is called as base editing feature. And using these techniques, a child who has had a genetic problem, that was sorted out by the scientist in US. So that is why we are going to understand the process of how genetic editing takes place, what are the benefits, what are the features of such genetic editing tools, and also what are the challenges in increasing adoption of such kind of a genetic tools for medical treatment. Okay, in the fourth article, which is relating to advanced tipping issue that has happened between CCP and Uber, we are going to discuss a pattern that is used by many e-commerce companies to unfairly charge you more for the goods and services that they sell. This is called as dark pattern. So I'll tell you what dark pattern is and how it fits in our today's discussion about advanced tipping, the issue that has been prominent whenever you use such kind of cab services like Ola, Uber, Rapido, etc. Okay, so this is relevant from GS paper 3 perspective, that is Indian economy, because you understand advanced tipping, dark patterns, etc. These are forms of unfair trade practices, and automatically the person who faces the brunt is the end consumer like you and I. So that is why it is relevant from GS paper 3 and also from the aspect of science and technology, because it fundamentally deals with an issue known as internet. Okay. So this is our fourth article, and the last article that we are going to cover today is Bharat forecasting system. As you understand, forecasting changes in weather events like rainfall, cyclones, etc. is a tough job. So there are various models that allows the agencies like IMD to forecast weather changes quite prominently and efficiently. So in this regard, Bharat forecasting system is going to be adopted by IMD. What are the features of Bharat forecasting system? How is it better than the existing forecasting systems of IMD? All of this we are going to cover in our today's discussion. This again is relevant from GS paper 1 and also from GS paper 3, that is geography as well as science and technology. So these are the 5 articles that we are going to understand in detail. Rishi, good evening. Augustine, Saujanya, you like our today's discussion because I've put a mains question in here. Baga Spinks, good evening. You were absent yesterday for some reason. You are otherwise a very regular student to the session. Shushmita, Bhanu, Yashi, Binu, all of them, good evening. All of you are regular. I see Nitesh. Sir, I am following your CA and self study कर रहा हूँ. सीरियस पढ़ाई चल रही है, बट ये कुछ कोचिंग वाले छोटे छोटे कोर्स बेच रहे हैं, क्लेम करते हैं कि खुद के सोर्सेस पर डाउट होता है, प्लीज बताइए. सी, irregardless of where you study from my YouTube channel or my sessions or somewhere else's, the sources are same, right? We are using Indian Express or we are using Hindu. Similarly, for polity we are using Lakshmikant. For economy we use books like Vivek Singh. Similarly, for geography, we rely on NCRTs. So the sources are same. The way you teach or the way teachers teach are different. Okay. So please do not get misguided by any coaching institutes. Just follow the standard sources that has been prescribed by almost everyone. Understand, Nitesh? Any doubt? Now, if you want to download the notes, this notes will be available on my Telegram channel. This is called as ATS Live. So if you haven't subscribed it yet, go to the Telegram channel, enter the words ATS Live on the search bar and you'll find the channel. Alternatively, you can also scan the QR code and this will also take you to the channel, right? So that is where the notes will be available after the end of our today's discussion. Now we'll start off our today's discussion by this first article of the day. It appeared on page 13 of the Indian Express newspaper today. And if you look at it, it talks about sailing 23,400 nautical miles to the brink of history. Two women officers of Indian Navy on board INSV Tarini, they are now approached to the culmination of their journey to the Goa coast, right? So this is a beautiful photograph highlighting these two officers on board a ship of Indian Navy known as INSV Tarini. So we'll learn more about their journey. Why is it so significant? What are the locations that they have traveled to? And what are the features of this ship on board which they are conducting this journey, right? So let us understand the context of our today's discussion. After sailing over 23,400 nautical miles around the globe in 8 months, braving treacherous waters, stormy weather, cyclones and passing through 3 Gate Capes, two women officers of Indian Navy on board INSV Tarini, they are on the brink of scripting history, because when they complete this journey, they will be the first team of double-handed circumnavigators, which means there are only 2 people on board the ship and they have sailed the entire globe. Suppose if I tell you to sail for few kilometers, you will get bored, because sailing takes a lot of time as compared to traveling on the road. Now imagine how difficult or how time taken this must have been for these two women, because they were traveling continuously for 8 months and they were braving treacherous waters and such extreme weather conditions. That is why this event, this journey is quite significant. Now, from our discussion perspective, what we need to understand are the features of this ship that is in news, that is INSV Tarini. Now, INSV, the word stands for Indian Navy Sailing Vessel, okay? INSV Tarini is an indigenously built 56-foot long sailing vessel which has been commissioned into Indian Navy back in 2017, and it was built by Aquarius Shipyard Limited in Goa. Now, the features of this ship, that it is equipped with Raymarine navigation suite, satellite communication systems and also an emergency steering mechanism which allows the sailors on board this ship to navigate and drive this ship even under extreme conditions like cyclones, like wavy waters, etc. Right? Now, the naming of this ship is also quite symbolic, because the vessel is named after Tara Tarini Hill Shrine, which is located in Odisha, and this is historically revered by sailors across India for safe voyages. And in the language of Sanskrit, the word Tarini, it means both the boat as well as savior. So that is why this boat has been named as INSV Tarini. Now, let us understand the journey that they have undertaken. It was called as Navika Sagar Parikrama the second, right? Navika Sagar Parikrama the first happened in 2018, and we are going to talk about this journey known as Navika Sagar Parikrama second. Now, Parikrama is the Hindi word for circumnavigation. So when you travel across the globe or across anything, that is called as Parikrama in Hindi, right? Now, it is a circumnavigation journey across the world, and what is more surprising, that this ship is not powered by any fossil fuel. Rather, this is not powered by any external assistance. Rather, it solely relies on wind power. That is why it is a sailing ship. It is not powered by steam engines. It is not powered by diesel engines, or it is not even powered by nuclear engine, right? So it solely relies on wind power, and therefore you can understand how difficult this journey might have been. And this was undertaken by two women officers of the lieutenant commander rank of the Indian Navy. Now, the objective of this mission was to support scientific exploration and collaboration between different countries, between different navies, and also navy and academia, right? And the total distance that they traveled, I told you, it was 23,400 nautical miles. This approximately in kilometers amounts to 43,300 kilometers, and this was spread across 8 months, and they were sailing across 3 oceans, that is Atlantic, Pacific as well as Indian Ocean, and circumnavigating 3 capes, which I will tell you. Okay, so this was the mission known as Navika Sagar Parikrama second. Now, they started their journey from Goa. From that, they traveled to Fremantle Port in Australia. From that they travel to Littleton Port in New Zealand, and after that they travel to Port Stanley in Falkland Island. Now Falkland Island is located on the east coast of South America, right? But in terms of sovereignty, this belongs to the country of United Kingdom. And Falkland Island has also been very famous that during 1980s, the war was fought for this island between two nations, that is UK and Argentina. That is why, like India, Pakistan, UK and Argentina, they don't gel together at all. Now what you need to understand, from Falkland Island, they traveled to Cape Town, which is located in South Africa, and this was the final stop. Now they have traveling to India and they have reached very close to the coast of Goa. So that is how their circumnavigation journey took place from these very ports. Please remember the locations of these ports and the countries they are under, right? So that is why it is important from geographical perspective. So difference between INSV and INS, I told you, right? INSV is a sailing vessel. So INS is designated the kind of ships which are powered by any engine, right? So suppose INS Vikrant, INS Vikramaditya, these are powered by steam engines. Ultimately they are powered by diesel generators. Similarly, any ship or any submarine even powered by nuclear power like INS Arihant, INS Arighat, all of them are termed as INS, Indian Navy ship, but this is a sailing vessel. So that is why INSV, that is why the change in nomenclature. Understood? Auspicious evening, sir, watching for the first on live. Yes, I hope you continue doing this. Okay, Utkarsh. Good evening, Sonu, Reshma, Dr. Jui Doshi. Good evening. So this is the route that they are going to cover. Now what you need to understand that during this voyage, the vessel experienced 3 cyclones while they were passing a geographical location called as Point Nemo, and this geographical location called as Point Nemo, it is also referred to as oceanic pole of inaccessibility. And why it is called as oceanic pole of inaccessibility? Because it happens to be the most remote location on earth, because it is situated approximately, the nearest distance to any landmass from Point Nemo is 2688 kilometers, and the location of Point Nemo is in southern Pacific Ocean. So you'll witness from this map also, this is Point Nemo in the southern part of ocean of Pacific Ocean, between New Zealand here on its west and South America on its east, right? So the nearest point from Point Nemo to nearest mass land is 2688 kilometers. Right. Now, various other facts about Point Nemo is that this is farthest point from any human habitation, and if you are located at Point Nemo, the closest human for you would be the human who is posted on the International Space Station, right? There won't be any human nearby, so the nearest human being for you would be in space. Therefore, this is a closest human presence to Point Nemo is on International Space Station, which orbits above this region. Now for space voyage purposes also, this Point Nemo is very significant, because I told you this is one of the most, not the one of the most, the most remotest location anywhere on earth. So that is why many space agencies like ISRO, like NASA, what they do, that they, whenever their satellites or any foreign object, they end their life, they make it a point to get that satellite or space vehicle landing on that point only. So space agency intentionally guide their decommissioned spacecraft, including satellites and space stations. So whenever they re-enter Earth, they program it such a way that they will land on Point Nemo, because it won't affect any human being negatively, right? So this is why Point Nemo is a very significant geographical location. That is why we are going to cover it today. Okay. Now another fact about the Navika Sagar Parikrama, that during mid-February, the crew crossed Cape Horn, located at the southern tip of South America, which is just over 800 kilometers from Antarctica. And when they were crossing Cape Horn, which is a very difficult passageway to navigate for any vessel, regardless of whether it is powered or not, they had to brave persistent rains, strong winds, as well as waves for more than 5 meters tall. And this has earned them the title of Cape Horners, which is designated or given to seafarers who are successfully navigating Cape Horn under sailing ship, right? If you navigate under powered ships, you won't be given this title of Cape Horners, right? So this is the location I was telling you. Cape Horn is the southernmost point of South America continent here, and this is the Cape Horn I'm talking about, and this is very near to the Antarctica continent, right? Now during the port of call at Cape Town last month in April, the naval officers, they also interacted with the university teachers and students and recounted some of their lessons learned during their expedition. So you can understand how good an impression these women officers must have created on the newer minds who wanted to join Navy. And that is why these kind of expedition, they also serve as a source of inspiration for budding sailors, right? Because being a sailor is not an easy job, especially when you are undertaking such a dangerous mission, right? So that is why this is a very significant development. Understood? Now, if you have understood all of this, let's see if you are able to solve this particular question. Yes, it is a graveyard for space exploration waste. Now you have to organize these ports from directions east to west, right? So you have to start from east and then you have to say, as you move westward, what will be the correct order of these questions, okay? Reshma has come up with an answer. Others? You know, when you are going to solve these questions, how to approach these kind of questions. Just note down the country where they are located. This is located in South Africa. This is located in Falkland Island. This is located in Australia. And Little Town is located in New Zealand. So what is the most easternmost country in this 4 countries? New Zealand, right? So when you travel from New Zealand, you reach Australia. And when you travel from Australia, you reach South Africa, sorry. And when you travel from South Africa, you reach where? You reach Falkland Island. So the correct answer would be 4. Sorry, you have to say 4, 3, 1, 2. Therefore, option B is your right answer. Most of you have gotten it right. Some of you have gotten it this wrong, but I'm sure after this discussion, the next time when such a question comes, you'll be able to mark it correctly. So how to approach these kind of questions? There's a method to it so that you don't get it wrong during your exam stress. Okay. Now moving to the second article, this one is from Explain section of the Indian Express, which is today on page 19, and it talks about a Chinese space mission which is expected to bring back a sample from an asteroid. So what becomes important from this newspaper or article? What is Chinese mission we are going to talk about? What is the asteroid it is traveling to, and what is the significance of bringing such samples back? Okay. So in this regard, let us understand the context. Now China, it will launch its first mission to survey and sample a near Earth asteroid this week, and this mission is known as Tianwen 2 mission, right? And this will send a probe to investigate an asteroid called as this, right? Kamoileva. And the number, you need not remember this, just remember the strange name, okay? Now this asteroid, it orbits the sun at a distance which is very relatively close to the Earth. That is why it is being sent, or a probe is being sent to this particular asteroid. Now if this mission becomes successful, this mission will place China in only a group of handful countries, including US and Japan, who have previously sent a mission to asteroid and have successfully brought in the sample back to Earth, right? So that is why this is a significant mission. Now let us understand few details about this asteroid, okay? Now this Kamoileva, it was discovered back in 2016 by Pan-STARRS Asteroid Survey Telescope, which is located in the island of Hawaii. Hawaii comes under the sovereign control of which country? Let me know in the comment section quickly. Now this asteroid, Kamoileva asteroid, is one of just 7 asteroids that fall into the category of little understood class known as quasi-satellites of Earth. What is the only satellite of Earth? Also let me know in the comments. Yes, Baga, Hawaii is under the sovereign control of United States. Now this asteroid is one of the asteroids that are called as quasi-satellites, because originally these asteroids, they orbit the sun, but because of its close distance to Earth, it has been sometimes wrongly perceived that these are circumnavigating the Earth, not sun, right? But in actual, they circumnavigate sun and not Earth, and therefore as they are very closely located to Earth, this asteroid is also affected by the gravitational force of Earth. So that is why these are called as quasi-satellite, and the only satellite of Earth is Moon, right? Bhanu, you're correct. Pradyut, Vidyut, you're also correct. Reshma, yes, US is the right answer. Now about Kamaleva asteroid. Now this asteroid travels in a highly elliptical solar orbit, and it appears from the earthbound observers that it is alternatively leading and trailing Earth. So suppose whenever it is traveling in an elliptical orbit, and suppose Earth is located here, sometimes this asteroid will appear to be very close to Earth, and sometimes it will appear very close, very far away from the Earth. And because of this impression, it is wrongly conceived or wrongly believed that this asteroid is traveling around Earth and not Sun, but it is wrong. It actually travels around the Sun. And quasi satellites are known to shift their orbits over time. So for instance, Kamaleva has been in its current orbit for around 100 years, and it is expected to remain here for next 300 years, and after that it is expected that the orbit of this asteroid might change. But now let us understand, why is China wanting to investigate this particular asteroid only, right? Now, Kamaleva asteroid has garnered attention across the space fraternity for its unusual orbit and also for its unusual origin. Therefore, scientists located across the world, they are exploring this asteroid, which will help them to find clues about how this quasi-satellite originated and how their orbits have gradually evolved over a time. So, this is the intention of satellites. First of all, to understand few details about its unusual orbit. Now, its unknown origin is also in question, and that is why some researchers are of the opinion that this Kamaleva asteroid could be the first known asteroid which is made up of lunar material, because many scientists believe that there is a probability that a large planet collided with Earth and the remnants of Earth led to the emergence of Moon. So it is going to, this mission is going to investigate whether or not this Kamaleva asteroid is indeed made up of lunar material. Therefore, it might have been ejected from Moon surface due to collision with some other astronomical object, and explorations of the asteroid, they could settle the hypothesis which many scientists believe, but this is a hypothesis, which means it is not a confirmed fact. It is an estimated fact that the Moon was formed as a result of collision between Earth and another small planet, and Kamaleva could have been a small remnant of that collision. So whenever a collision happened between Earth or a smaller planet, it led to expungement of dust. Some of this dust coalesced into forming of Moon, and some, they also expect that Kamaleva must also be the remnants of such dust. So therefore, if the lunar material and the Kamaleva are the same, that is why we can prove it actually by bringing the samples back. Now, how will this mission retrieve the samples? To collect these samples, Kamaleva, the Tianwen 2 mission will use a technique known as touch and go technique. This touch and go technique was also implemented by US in its OSIRIS-REx mission, which sent a probe to asteroid called as Bennu. Similarly, a Japanese probe known as Hayabusa 2, Hayabusa the bike in Dhoom 1, right? So Hayabusa 2 was the mission which sent its probe to the asteroid Ryugu, right? Now this is the technique, that is, I'm talking about touch and go technique. Here the spacecraft, it hovers over the asteroid while a robotic arm will fire and will actually catch the collections of the asteroid, right? And this collection will then be delivered to Earth. So this is touch and go technique. Alternatively, if this touch and go technique doesn't work, this probe will also use an anchor and attach technique. What is this anchor and attach technique? Here 4 robotic arms are extended and they drill into the surface to retrieve the material from that particular asteroid. And after the sample is collected either by one of these two methods, the mission will drop them on Earth, and then this probe will head towards another journey to the main asteroid belt for another such mission, right? So this is how this particular mission will retrieve the sample, through either touch and go technique or through anchor and attach technique. Touch and go technique has been used previously by US and Japan in its respective missions. Please remember, Japanese name is Hayabusa 2. Okay. Now let's see if you are able to solve this particular question. Very easy question. You should be able to solve it correctly. Yes, no need to discuss. Option C is the right answer. Now moving to the next article, this also appeared in the explain section and it talks about a genetic editing technique which is a derivative of CRISPR-Cas9 technique known as base editing. So we are going to talk about how this base editing or CRISPR-Cas9 works and how was it significant in treating a child for its genetic disease, right? Now such articles are important from science and tech perspective, and as we have seen the paper in past few years, such question almost definitely appear in the prelims exam, right? So in this regard, let us also understand this question or this context of the article. Now, a 9-month-old baby boy in US who was born with a rare genetic disorder has been the first known person to have successfully received a custom gene editing treatment, and this information was published in a New England Journal of Medicine, right? Now scientists, they say that this technology, it can potentially treat thousands of uncommon genetic diseases, but there remains certain roadblocks in its universal adoption. What are these roadblocks? I will tell you in our today's discussion only, need not to worry, okay? But before understanding this gene editing, let me give you some small background about this, how this gene editing works, right? Now genetic information which is stored in our DNA, these are stored in 4 different nucleotide bases. These are called as adenine, guanine, cytosine and thymine, right? Now these bases, they do not exist individually, rather they are paired up with each other. So therefore these are stacked one on top of the other, creating a horizontal layer of double strandedness or double stranded layer, and this helical structure is called as DNA. What you need to know, that there is only a certain way these nucleotide bases can be paired. Adenine can be paired with only thymine and cytosine can only be paired with guanine, right? So this is the double helical structure of DNA, and from this you can understand these are the base pairs of DNA. So this might have been a A and T pair, and this might have been a C and G pair, right? It can't happen that A and C can't form a pairing, T and G can't form a pairing. If that pairing happens, it will lead to a genetic disorder. Understood now? So this is the basic idea I was giving you about DNA and its structure. Now the patient, that was a few months old boy in question, was known as Kyle Mudlun Jr., abbreviated as KJ. Now this kid KJ, he suffered from a disease known as CPS1 deficiency, which caused a toxic level of ammonia to accumulate in his blood, and if not controlled, it could have led to the death of the child also, right? Now genetic disorders like the one KJ suffers from, that is CPS1 deficiency, it occurs due to the mispairing or abnormal sequence in the DNA, right? So if mispairing happens, that is between A and G or between G and T, which couldn't have happened otherwise, this leads to an abnormal DNA sequences, and it might even lead to such genetic disorders. Understood? Sir, ethical and environmental conditions, Earth is limited but mortality has improved. Wouldn't it stress the earth? Well, I'll tell you, need not go into so much details right now, okay? Let me follow the pattern of how I explain things to you, okay? Now to treat this kid, that is KJ, scientists and doctors from University of Pennsylvania and Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, they developed a personalized treatment used or called as base editing, which is a new version of the already quite famous technology known as CRISPR-Cas9 technology. So in this regard, we'll understand how CRISPR-Cas9 technology works and how base editing is same or different than CRISPR-Cas9, okay? Now first let us understand how CRISPR-Cas9 works. Now this tool, on a very basic idea, it works in a very simple way, like how you enter Control X and Control V on your laptops and computer, right? Control X means cut and Control V means paste, right? So this is a cut, copy, paste, or even a find and replace functionality, much similar to computer programs. Now first, whenever you are using this technique, the first task of this genetic editing tool is to identify the abnormal DNA sequence in the patient's DNA. So then only you will be able to identify what DNA or what abnormal DNA is creating this disease in the patient, right? And after you identify the abnormal DNA, the scientists, they create a guide RNA which is attached to the Cas9 enzyme, right? So Cas9 enzyme, it is attached with a guide RNA, and this then is introduced to target the cells of patient. So first what you do, you identify the abnormal DNA and then you target that abnormal DNA with a guide RNA, and this is on board the Cas9 tool. Cas9 tool is basically the scissor used in this particular genetic editing technique. Okay, now let us understand how this scissor actually works. Now the guide RNA, it recognizes the bad DNA sequence, and then the molecular scissor known as Cas9, it cuts the DNA at the specific location, and this process is called as a double strand break, right? Because this double strand break cuts both strands of the DNA, and this gets rid of the DNA sequence causing the illness, and it will be much more clearer if I explain it to you. Suppose if the scientists, they identify that this is the DNA strand which is an abnormal DNA, right? So what Cas9 will do, it will make a cut here, and then it will eliminate this part from your DNA. So the abnormal DNA gets erased, right? So this is how the CRISPR-Cas9 works. It actually eliminates this abnormal DNA by simply cutting it. Okay. Now what DNA strands have the ability, that DNA strands have the natural tendency to reattach and repair themselves, right? Meaning that there is a chance if you leave it unattended after cutting that DNA, there is a chance that the bad sequence might actually regrow. So to deal with such problems, scientists, what they do, that they also supply correct DNA sequence which might be taken for a foreign organism after cutting process, and this foreign DNA is meant to attach itself to our own DNA, and then it will help repair the or help remove the abnormality in your DNA sequence, right? So in this, a foreign DNA which is the same strand as this will be introduced here, and this will be attached in this, therefore essentially repairing your abnormal DNA. Understood this? Any doubt? You can ask me right now. Otherwise, I'll move forward. Okay? Any doubt? Now, this CRISPR-Cas9 technique is basically a 10-year-old technique. So, over the years, you understand there are many improvements that has been made in CRISPR-Cas9 to make it more safe and more precise in nature. And one of the newer version, this is called as base editing. Now, base editing and CRISPR-Cas9, although they are very similar, but they differ significantly when it comes to how they modify the DNA structure. Okay, so let us understand how is base editing different than Cas9 in changing the or modifying the DNA. Now, unlike CRISPR-Cas9, base editing does not make a double-stranded break. I told you here, Cas9 is making break in this part also and in this part also. That is why it was called as the double strand break. Now, base editing, it does not make double stranded break, rather it targets only single base conversion with the help of Cas9 enzyme, and therefore this is a base modifying enzyme. Therefore, this base editing feature, it allows scientists to fix misrepairing bases by changing one specific base at a time, right? For example, if there is an ANC base, it can be corrected to ANT or to CNT, right? So what you need is ANT or you need C and G. So if there is, you can attach G here also or you can attach T here also. So essentially what you need to do is eliminate only one of them, right? So these are the base pairing, right? So suppose this is A and this is G, which shouldn't have happened. So what scientists will do, they will make a cut here, only one cut, not here, and they will change it to T here so that they will change it to C here so that C and G becomes a correct pairing. So therefore, it makes a cut only in this part, not in this part. This is what is different about base editing as compared to Cas9. Cas9 made double stranded cuts, base editing only makes cut at one particular strand. Now, to treat KJ, what the scientists did, that they first determined which was the misplaced base in his DNA which was causing the disease, and then they reprogrammed the base editing tool, that is Cas9, and they were rewriting the target base. So this process, it was more similar to using a pencil and eraser, because if you make changes here, that is A and T, you can erase A and you can either erase T also, right? So that is how instead of cut, copy, paste or scissors, you can make base editing a much similar exercise to using pencil and eraser. So I'm making it much more clearer to you or much more basic to you so that you remember these kind of ideas. Any doubts up till how base editing works? Now let's see what are the challenges in undertaking these treatments. First challenge obviously is the high amount of cost that is incurred in such treatments. Therefore, even if these treatments become common, they will not be accessible to most people, especially people belonging to middle class or poor people, right? So the treatments of KJ was also supported by scientific community, and that is why they were able to take such an expensive treatment. Similarly, base editing tool created for KJ, it was a one-off treatment, which means it was designed specifically for the unique genetic disorder that KJ had. So that tool which was used on KJ, you can understand it can't be used on another person. So therefore, this is another problem, that you have to make a specially customized tool which can be good only for one kind of a disease, and then you can't mass manufacture it, right? So for any treatment to become quite common, it has to cater to most of the people, if not all. And this is what even the vaccines and drug manufacturers work on. So if they are conducting a research on a medicine, they'll make sure that that medicine is catering to most of the people in need. So therefore, this does not make an economic sense even for big pharma companies, because it is a very customized kind of a treatment. And also, if they are able to do it, another factor is regulatory approval, especially in countries like India, because India, it takes very long time to get you a regulatory approval for a newer medicine or a new genetic editing technique. And then also many organizations, they face red tapeism because of bureaucracy. So these are the challenges that may prohibit widespread adoption of such techniques, despite the fact that these techniques are quite good when it comes to dealing with genetic disorders. Understand how it works, what are the prohibitive costs. Now, if you understand this, let me know the correct answer to this question. Super soldier is a possibility. Well, probably yes. So if we make changes to human DNA, theoretically yes. In practice, I don't know. I'm not very good in biology. That's why I took engineering. Well, both of the statements are right. A straightforward one, both of them. Second one is especially correct because base editing is a form of gene editing that allows conversion of only one DNA base into another without making double-stranded breaks into DNA. Double-stranded breaks happened in CRISPR-Cas9, not in base editing, right? So both of the statements are right. Option C is your right answer. And now, as we are done with prelims, so I expect all of you to also attempt this practice question. Please try to read the question first before start writing the answers. Why? This says that genetic editing technologies like CRISPR-Cas9 and genetic base editing have revolutionized modern biotechnology by enabling precise and efficient genetic modifications. So in this regard, what you need to do is discuss the scientific principles behind this technique. And also, this is the first part of the question. So you will introduce your answer by highlighting these genetic editing tools, and then you will, in the first part of the body, you will identify the scientific principles behind this technique, that you will enumerate the process it takes for genetic editing and the differences between these two. Now, the second part of the body is what are ethical, regulatory and technical challenges in the widespread adoption, particularly in context of agriculture and human health. So you'll have to individually address these challenges. Regulatory challenge, I've already told you. Technical challenge, I've already told you that this is a customized treatment. And ethical challenge is that suppose you are dealing with a patient who has a genetic problem, right? So that is a good application of such genetic editing tools. But what if you make your babies a designer baby, or what if you change the entire DNA of humans so that they become a superhuman, right? So those are ethical challenges. So that is why you're required to write each and every aspect of these answers individually. Try to write them in 250 words, and you can also submit your answers in the ATS live discussion. I will try my level best to give you suggestions and also evaluate them, okay? Especially you, Saujanya, you were requesting, that's why I remembered this and posted this question, okay? Now, genetic editing, etc., they are a big part of biotechnology, and from the PYQs you'll safely see that biotechnology is one of the areas where questions are definitely asked in the prelims examination. We discussed biotechnology in detail in our GS foundation classes, that is from prelims to interview classes. Right now the May morning batch admissions are going on, but this admission for this May morning batch will close on 31st of May. And if you want to take admissions in this batch, what you need to do, go to our website. Right, so when you go to our website, you will be needing to create an account here first by simply logging in with your mobile number. Then after that, click on explore courses here. When you click on explore courses, the above tile is the one that tells you what kind of a language you want your education to be in. Suppose if you're not comfortable in bilingual or Hindi batches, no problem. You can also opt for in specific English batches known under this UPSC IS English, right? So the first tile here represents the May morning English batch. So click on this tile. Right now you can see this course, that is the diamond batch here, is available at 37,999, right? But to take admissions even at a discounted rate from this amount also, what you need to do, click on buy now. Here is an option for you to add promo code. Click on this and write ATS live here, right? ATS live is exactly the code which is applying on the bottom half of your screen, right? After writing ATS live, click on apply. As soon as you click on apply, see the discount of 7,000 rupees is applicable, and the course fees for diamond falls to just 30,999. Similarly, platinum is at 27,500 and gold is at 16,999. My recommendation to you is opt for diamond batches, but do not forget to add the code also to get 7,000 rupees discount. The code is ATS live. And why am I recommending diamond batch? Because see, from this comparative chart, diamond has all the features of StudyIQ platform, whereas some features are not present in both gold and platinum, right? Now, having said that, moving to another article, this one is on page 19 of the Indian Express newspaper. It talks about Uber's new advanced tip feature and why it is under government scrutiny, right? So let us quickly understand this advanced tipping feature. I already covered it, but I have added newer dimensions to this article. That is why I am redoing it. Now, the Central Consumer Protection Authority, CCPA, which is India's protection watchdog, or it takes care interest of consumers, it has given a notice, or it has served a notice to the app Uber, which is a ride hailing app, right? Now, this notice of CCPA, it sought an explanation from company over its advanced tipping feature, which prompts user to tip drivers even before the bookings are confirmed on the platform. So, as soon as you start booking the cab, you will see an option, offer an advanced tip to the driver, so that driver automatically takes a ride, right? So this is basically a controversial issue. Why is it a controversial issue? Let us understand the concept of forward tripping first, right? Forward tripping, also known as pre-tripping, advanced tripping, upfront tripping, it is a feature in the ride-hailing app where passengers are prompted to add a trip for drivers at the time of booking a ride, which is even before the ride is confirmed or these are completed. And this is unlike traditional tipping, because traditional tipping occurs after you have gotten the service, and if you are enjoying the service, you are happy with the quality of the service, then you tip the person who is giving you the service. For example, if you go to a restaurant, after completion of the meal, when you ask for the bill, then you generally offer tip to the waiters, right? Similarly, tipping works in a similar manner in all the other services. But on the other hand, forward tipping is designed to incentivize drivers on Uber and in other platforms like Ola and Rapido to accept their ride, because you are offering them an additional payment upfront, right? So this is basically an advanced payment. This necessarily does not confer to the traditional idea of tipping, which is usually offered after the completion of the service, right? And this is an optional offer which the customers may or may not exercise. Now, what are the concerns associated with forward tipping? This tip generally is seen as a token of appreciation and not as a matter of right for the service provider. And this is only given after you have enjoyed or taken the service, right? But if you force or nudge the users to pay a tip in advance, this is seen as an unethical and an unexploitative practices by the commercial companies, and such actions legally they fall under unfair trade practices under the Consumer Protection Act of 2019. Under this act, this particular section says that unfair methods employed to promote sale of an item, including false representation about the quality, quantity, these are examples of unfair trade practices. When you force and nudge the customers on your platform to pay a tip, this is also seen as an unethical and unexploitative practice, which should be rather refrained from. Now, upfront tipping, it institutionalizes the practices such as haggling with an auto driver. Now, suppose if you're traveling to another city and if you want to travel from location A to B, you have a two option, whether to hail a auto there itself or to book an auto or a cab through an app, right? But why do you generally not opt to deal with such auto walas directly? Because it will involve a process of bargaining. Suppose if that route takes generally 50 to 60 rupees, but automatically the auto walas will say, I will charge 100 rupees or even 150 rupees for it. So to avoid these kind of negotiations or haggling by many auto walas, you rely on technology. So this was why people use these technologies to avoid such kind of forgettable experiences, right? And this is much more prominent in cities like Bangalore. Believe me, I've had a personal experience. Now, people, they were looking to escape these kind of practices by relying on apps like Ola, Uber and Rapido. While this, according to the app, this is a discretionary measure, that is advanced tipping, but this discretion actually gets skewed, because if someone else offers advanced tipping to the drivers, why would driver take your ride? He will take the other person's ride, right? So that is why it reduces the amount of drivers you can hire, and that is why it is seen as an exploitative and an unethical practice. Understood? Khushi, I am a new student. Yes, Khushi, what is your doubt? Any doubt you can ask me right here. Now, many experts feel that this practice of advanced tipping or forward tipping, this is also an example of dark pattern. Now, dark pattern is a technique which is used by companies, particularly internet companies, to influence your consumer behavior in their favor. For example, these dark patterns exist on the app in its UI, which is designed to mislead or trick the customers in doing something that they originally shouldn't have done, right? Now, CCPA, which is Consumer Protection Watchdog, it issued guidelines in 2023 aimed at regulating and prohibiting such practices of dark pattern. So let us understand dark pattern in understanding why is it a bad thing to do. Now, first example of dark pattern is called as false urgency, right? And it is referred to falsely stating or implying a sense of urgency by saying or making any available goods as scarce, which is intended to mislead a user in making an immediate purchase. And the most example is that limited offer sale or limited time offer, right? The ones that you've witnessed on the platforms like this, right? Limited offer, special offer, hurry up. And suppose if you're traveling to another location, if you're booking a hotel, you'll see that the price is quoted here and it will say only one room left at this price on our site. So what you'll do, you'll quickly book this hotel without looking at the other options, because it says that only one room is left. So this actually might not be true, and it is just a design that website is trying to lure you by bringing you or having a false sense of urgency, like limited offer discounts, special time offer, limited time sale, special offer for you, right? So these are examples of dark pattern. Another category of dark pattern is known as drip pricing, where elements of prices are not revealed upfront or they are revealed surreptitiously, means they are hidden in some way. For example, this is the screenshot that I've taken today itself. So this is an iPhone. Actual cost of iPhone is 1,35,900 rupees. But see here, the actual cost of the iPhone is written in a smaller font, whereas the lower cost, that is the EMI that you are required to put, is written in a bigger font here, which means perceive prima facie, you'll see that the cost of this iPhone is just 22,650, which makes it much more affordable. That is why this is the practice that e-commerce sites rely on, so that it appears falsely that this product is cheaper than what it really is, right? Yes, Rapido, Ola, all of them do it. Even Namma Yatri, which is an app of Karnataka government, actually they are the ones who started this practice. So, drip pricing is where the prices are not revealed correctly, or even if they are revealed correctly, they are hidden in one way or the other, so that you are misled by the prices. So, for example, if you book an aeroplane ticket right now, the prices which will be quoted on the website is somewhat less. But when you go and make the final payment, they add the convenience fee afterwards without saying it to you directly, right? So, this is an example of how dark patterns work. Similarly, there were reports on Twitter that a person using an iPhone and a similar person using an Android, the prices shown on Zepto for similar goods were different. It was much more expensive on iPhone. So this is also a dark pattern. which is trying to siphon more money from you in case you are using an iPhone, right? So this is an example of dark pattern and why we should refer or we should stay away from them. Now a question appeared in 2018 on different kinds of cyber tools or cyber attack or ransomware tools. I've changed that question to suit our today's discussion on dark pattern. Yes, इतना टाइम क्या ले रहे हो सब? ऑप्शन सी इज द राइट आंसर. Okay. Now let us move to the last article of the day. This article actually is from yesterday's newspaper. Because of lack of time yesterday, I left out on it, but this is an important article, so I am covering it today. Okay. Yes, Reshma, Shushmita, Baga, Rishi, Jeev Jyoti, Saujanya, all of you are right. Happy today, Saujanya, because I added a mains question today. Yes, Utkarsh. Now this article appeared yesterday on page 9 and it talks about Bharat forecast system, which is important from geographical perspective, right? Why is it important from geographical perspective? You'll know it after we discuss this article. Now the IMD, which is India's nodal authority to issue weather updates, it will soon adopt what is known as Bharat forecasting system, and this offers a highest resolution among all weather models anywhere in the world. Now this move, it will significantly enhance the IMD's weather forecasting capability, especially for extreme weather events starting of monsoon this year itself. So this will be implemented from this year's monsoon event, right? Now let us understand how the weather forecasting generally works. Now globally, weather forecasters use multiple models or multiple programs which helps them to give weather updates, and to use these programs they enter or they add to these programs latest atmospheric and oceanic related conditions as data, and when this data is added to the model, this model is required to be run in a very powerful computer. So most of the weather organizations, they use high performance computers like supercomputers to run these programs or models, which in turn provides them with the output that what the prediction of the weather will be like, right? So therefore they have multiple models based on which they do, or the computers itself do the calculation after the various temperature, pressure, rainfall data is added to it, right? So basically this is how the weather forecasting works. Now weather forecasting in India, that is done by IMD, it uses multiple tools or multiple models. For example, it uses coupled forecasting system which was developed under monsoon mission project. Now this coupled forecasting system originally was developed in US by the National Center for Environment Prediction, but Indians modified it to suit it for Indian monsoon purposes and has a different spatial and temporal resolutions, right? So this was first model that IMD uses. Simultaneously it uses other models also like global forecasting system, which is a coupled model that it factors in conditions belonging to oceans and atmospheric also for issuing weather related forecast, and it issues weather forecast for different time scales. It may range for few hours to 5 days or even for a month's period, right? So this is the second model that the IMD use, called as global forecasting system. Now let us understand why did IMD wanting to have a new model. There must be some challenges with the existing models, that is why they need a new model, right? So the challenge with the existing model, that the resolution of the existing weather models is 12 by 12 kilometers, which means when you multiply 12 and 12, you get 144 square kilometer area. So a unit based on which the weather forecasting is issued is 12 kilometers in length with 12 kilometers in width. So 1 unit of weather for which they delineate the weather systems will at least or minimum be a 144 square kilometer area. And the problem with this model is that when you issue a weather update for a particular piece of area, that is 144 square kilometers of area, so the weather changes inside that area won't be able to picked up by your models. Therefore they will be unable to pick up weather events occurring over smaller distances. So suppose if your friend is living 5 kilometers away from your home, right, and if you call them, the probability is that rainfall might be happening there and there is no rainfall in your house. So we understand the patterns of rainfall, the amount of rainfall changes from kilometer to kilometer. So assessing a weather over a 12 by 12 kilometer area sometimes won't give you an accurate picture, right? So any variation occurring within 144 square kilometers of area won't be captured, and this limits the forecasting skills of any agency, given there is a chances of extreme rainfall events and overall weather extremes on rise, and also it might change quite drastically within a few kilometers range. So this was the problem with existing models that IMD utilized. So it has brought in a new model. Simultaneously, it will continue using the older models, but it will also use newer model, that is the Bharat Forecasting System, BFS. This is a new weather forecasting model launched by Government of India, and this is a completely indigenously built weather model, and this is the first indigenously built weather model also. This was developed by Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology in Pune, which functions under the Ministry of Earth Scientists, right? Now, the feature of this Bharat Forecasting System that it improves the resolution. Now, it give a forecast for resolutions of 6 by 6 kilometers, that is 36 square kilometers area, which is much lesser than the 144 square kilometers in the area. In terms of resolution, this is the highest ever resolution anywhere in the world, and therefore it enables prediction of small scale weather phenomena, and therefore IMD will be able to issue more localized and accurate forecast across India. And the technological backbone of this Bharat forecasting system is a supercomputer named as ARCA, which was installed in IITM Pune in 2024. If you don't know, ARCA is the Bengali term for sun, right? So this model will be processed over the supercomputer ARCA, right? Now, the significance of such development, first of all, that it will improve disaster preparedness of any area, it will improve agricultural planning and also urban management. What is the biggest problem in urban areas these days during the rainy season is the urban floods. So you can actually provide information accurately that this particular area might witness a high rainfall, and accordingly the authorities will prepare for or will conduct any exercise that may prevent such instances from happening. Also, it boosts scientific infrastructure for weather forecasting. It will make IMD the most better IMD or forecasting agency anywhere in the world, and overall it enhances India's global standing in climate modeling and meteorology. So this is how indigenous technologies, when they are very good, increases your standing anywhere in the scientific community in the world, right? So this was all about the Bharat forecasting system. Let me know the correct answer to this question quickly. Well, first is correct. You might have already seen it. It is a weather model which adopts a better resolution of 6 by 6 kilometers. Third also is correct, a straightforward one. It will start from 2025 monsoon season, right? But the second option, BFS will replace the global forecasting system, is incorrect. It will be in addition to the existing systems, not entirely replace it. You rely on multiple models at a time. You can't rely on just one single model, right? What if that model incorrectly predicts the weather phenomena? So you'll be in a big worry, right? So that is why it will be used in addition to the existing systems. So second statement is incorrect. Therefore, option C is the right answer. Some of you have gotten it right. Fulkit Khokhar has gotten it right. Jeev Jyoti has gotten it right. Utkarsh has gotten it right. I don't know. Utkarsh was talking about last question. Okay. So this is all from my side for today's discussion. The notes will be available on the channel ATS Live, so you can go and download the notes. So this will be the end of today's session. We'll see each other again tomorrow. So have a very good evening and a very pleasant good night. Okay.